Hi everyone, my name is Rebecca Lopez and I'm doing my World AIDS project on Nigeria. This is my oral presentation and public service announcement, which will be at the end of my PowerPoint. I will first begin with some fun facts about Nigeria. The capital of Nigeria is Abuja. The president of Nigeria is Goodluck Jonathan, and the population estimated is around 177 million people. When it comes to religion, about 50% of people in Nigeria are Muslim, and 40% are Christian, and 10% are other beliefs. The median age is 18.2. Males are 18.1, where females are 18.3. The life expectancy is 52 compared to other countries, and males are 51.63 and females are 53.6. With education literacy, for people that are 15 or older, 61.3% are able to read. And with school life expectancy, people are averaging around 9 years of education. And there's a map of Nigeria. And their colors are green and white. The background is their flag. I have a map here of Nigeria. These is the estimated number of people living with HIV, all ages and sex. 3 million people are living with HIV right now. I'm going to talk about some of the statistics of HIV. Like I said earlier, the total living with HIV is 3.4 million people. Worldwide, Nigeria has the second highest number of new infections reported each year, and an estimated 3.7% of the population are living with HIV. Approximately 210,000 people die from AIDS in Nigeria. And the national life expectancy was 52 years of age. Although the national life expectancy remains low, this figure has been rising since access to antiviral therapy became available in the mid-2000s. And with HIV receiving antiviral therapy, there's an estimated of 592,000 people receiving it, compared to 1.3 million people in need of antiretroviral therapy. When I read this statistic, I was shocked and had to double check and make sure the numbers were correct, because I did not believe it at first. Now, with the major modes of transmission, there are 3 main HIV transmission routes in Nigeria. Heterosexual sex. Approximately 80% of HIV infections in Nigeria are a result of heterosexual sex. Women are particularly affected by HIV. In 2011, an estimated 1.7 million women were living with HIV. The prevalence was 3% among young women aged 15 to 24. Factors contributing to this include a lack of information about sexual health and HIV, low levels of condom use, and high levels of sexually transmitted diseases. However, gender inequality among women have been identified as a key driver of the HIV epidemic among women. Blood transfusions accounts for 11%. HIV transmission through unsafe blood accounts for the second largest source of HIV infection in Nigeria. Not all Nigerian hospitals have the technology to effectively screen blood, and therefore there is a risk of using contaminated blood. The Nigerian Federal Ministry of Health have responded by backing legislation that requires hospitals to only use blood from the National Blood Transfusion Service, which has more advanced blood screening technology. Mother to child is 9%, accounts for 9%. Most children infected with HIV acquire it from their mothers. An estimated 69,000 children were newly infected with HIV in 2011. With HIV risk groups, the highest are sex workers, accounts for 24.5%. Now, this includes brothels and non-brothels based female sex workers. Second is men to men, 17.2%. And lastly is injecting drug users, which accounts for 4.2%. Transport workers and members of the armed forces and police are considered high risk. It has been found that individuals that fall under these groups and their partners account for 40% of new infections in Nigeria. Age groups most affected: 15 to 24 years old. For females, it's 1.3, where males are only 0.7%. The next age group is 25 to 49 years of age, and combined, it was 32%. My next slide discusses the education part and how Nigeria is very strict. Sex is traditionally a very private subject in Nigeria, and the discussion of sex with teenagers is often seen inappropriate. So it is evident that some groups, particularly religious or cultural leaders, have acted as a barrier to previous attempts to provide sex education for young people in Nigeria. However, successful delivery of sex education to young people is on the rise, and increasing the participation of these community leaders in the planning of such programs. In 2009, only 23% of schools were providing lifestyle skills based on HIV education. Only 25% of men and women between the ages of 15 and 24 correctly identified ways to prevent sexual transmission of HIV. Only 25%. That was another shocker when I read that. I just think about myself in that age and all my friends, and only 25% of them only knew how to protect themselves or to prevent some kind of STD or HIV. In some regions of Nigeria, girls may be a lot younger, and you'll see young women with older men. There was a study that was found that those who marry at a younger age have less knowledge about HIV and AIDS than unmarried women, and are more likely to believe that they're low risk for becoming infected with HIV. HIV and AIDS education still needs to be the focus on married girls, and they are less likely to have access to health information than unmarried girls, according to the study. However, the need to improve knowledge about HIV among girls overall, whether they're married or not, still remains at focus. And HIV prevention knowledge is less among girls aged 15 to 19 compared to boys. So, addressing the social and cultural factors that contribute to early sexual debut among girls are different, but they're still trying to focus both on men and women. In northwestern Nigeria, around half of the girls are married by the age of 15, and 4 out of the 5 girls are married by the time they're 18. Twice as many girls than boys are engaging in sexual activity before the age of 15 years. Using a condom is the most effective way for a person to protect themselves from HIV, unless they're not having sex. However, restrictions on condom promotion in Nigeria has made it difficult for people, to promote this for HIV prevention. Nearly half, 42% of HIV infections among people considered to be having low risk sex. Those, whether they're in a serious relationship or married, and then which results in a low condom use among regular sexual partners, but you still always have one partner that could be engaging in high-risk behaviors outside the relationship. More than 2 billion male condoms and 886,000 female condoms were distributed both by the NGO, or the non-governmental organization, and Federal Ministry of Health, are the major distributors of male and female condoms. Very few people know their status in Nigeria. This can place people at risk of becoming ill, as they do not have access timely for HIV treatment and care. It also increases the risk of transmission to sexual partners. People who want to get tested for HIV often have to travel long distances or go to rural centers, and the lack of testing and counseling facilities plays a factor into that. In 2011, there were only 1,357 HIV testing and counseling facilities nationwide, and only 12% of women and men aged 15 to 49 had received an HIV test and found out the results. This kind of shows how desperate the government needs to focus on getting HIV testing services more out in different places. HIV testing and counseling of pregnant women is central also for the prevention of mother-to-child transmission. Yet this remains extremely low, with only 1 in 6 pregnant women receiving it. The uptake of HIV testing among most at-risk individuals, such as sex workers, drug users, men who have sex with men, like I discussed earlier, must increase if Nigeria is to see a decline in the current high levels of HIV reported among these groups. Nigeria continues to be home to 10% of the global population of people living with HIV and still has a long way to go in tackling its devastating HIV and AIDS epidemic. In 2011, the Nigerian health minister acknowledged the extent of the challenge that Nigeria faces when he stated, "The HIV and AIDS epidemic in Nigeria remains a public health problem of enormous magnitude that must be given priority attention." This is my public service announcement, and I hope you guys enjoy this, and thank you guys for listening. There was my PSA. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you. Bye.